This is Pre-Algebra Chapter 3.3, Solving Equations with Variables on Both Sides. Thus far, we've learned to solve two-step equations, but we haven't yet had to solve an equation where the variable is on both sides. Let's begin with an example. 7n minus 5 equals 10n plus 13. The first thing we want to do here is to combine our like terms. We want to get all of our n's on one side of the equation. So we will rewrite the equation, subtracting 7n from each side. Giving us negative 5 equals 3n plus 13. Now we subtract 13 from each side. Giving us 3n equaling negative 18. Now we finish solving by dividing each side by 3, giving us negative 6 equaling n. So our solution is n equals negative 6. Try 3 of these problems on your own. Remember, your first step is to combine your terms onto one side of the equation. Then you can use the skills you already have to solve for the variable's value. Now that we know how to solve an equation that has a variable on each side, let's learn to write an equation that includes a variable on each side. Here's our problem. The Spanish club is arranging a trip to a Mexican restaurant nearby. Those who go must share the $60 cost of renting the bus. The restaurant's buffet costs $5 per person. How many students must sign up for the trip in order to limit the cost to $10 per person? All right, let's figure out how to set this up. If S represents the number of students, then we'll write an equation that looks something like this. The cost per student times the number of students equals the cost of the buffet times the number of students plus the cost of the bus. Now let's substitute in what we know. We want our cost per student to equal $10 for S number of students. We don't know the number of students yet. The price for the buffet is $5 per student plus the cost of the bus, $60. So our equation will be set up as 10S equals 5S plus 60. Now, we want to move all of our terms to one side of the equation. So we're going to subtract 5s from each side, giving us 5s equals 60. To solve for the number of students, we'll divide each side by 5. And 60 divided by 5 equals 12. In order for the cost to be $10 per person, the Spanish club needs 12 people to attend the field trip. Let's work out another very similar problem. A bus tour of celebrities' homes costs $300 for the bus, plus $8 per person for lunch. How many people must a tour group have in it so that the cost per person is $20? Okay, we're going to follow the same logic that we did with our previous problem. We know that we want the total cost per person to equal $20. So we're going to start with 20p, with p being person. That's going to equal $8 per person for lunch, plus $300 for the bus. Okay, see the logic here? Now, we want to get all of our terms on the same side. So we're going to subtract 8p from each side, giving us 12p equals 300. So to find out, then, how many people we need, we'll divide each side by 12 to isolate our term P. 300 divided by 12 equals 25. Therefore, our tour group needs 25 people in order for the cost to be $20 per person. In our next two examples, we're going to examine some interesting situations that can occur with equations. In the first, we're going to look at an equation with no solution, and in the second, we'll look at an equation with all numbers as solutions. Let's begin with an equation with no solution. 5 times 2x plus 1 equals 10x. Our first step in this problem is to distribute. 5 times 2x equals 10x plus 5 equals 10x. You see what's about to happen here? When we try to move all of our x's to one side, we subtract 10x from each side, correct? Leaving us with 5 equals 0. Obviously, this can't be true. 10x cannot be equal to 5 more than itself, so this equation has no solution. Now let's look at an equation where all numbers can be the solution. 6x plus 2 equals 2 times 3x plus 1. First, we distribute, giving us 6x plus 2. Wait a second. These two are already equal. So no matter what value we place in for x, the statement will always be true. This equation has every number as a possible solution. Let's take a look at the last idea in this chapter, which is solving an equation to find a perimeter. This lets us explore a relationship between geometry and algebra. A square has 4 sides of equal length. Write an equation and solve for x. Well, we know that if the sides are of equal length, then 2x must equal x plus 4. Now we simply solve for x. We'll subtract an x from each side, giving us x equals 4. However, this is not what our question has asked us to find. Our question has asked us to find the perimeter of the square. So now if we know that x equals 4, let's plug it in and make sure that that works. 4 plus 4 equals 8. 2 times 4 also equals 8. Okay, good so far. We know that the two sides are of equal length. So now let's find the perimeter, which we'll calculate by taking 4 times the length of one side, which is 8, giving us an answer of 32. The perimeter of the square is 32 units. That finishes up this chapter for us today. When I see you tomorrow, we'll do more work with equations having variables on both sides. See you then.